Next step in the process is to install our top bracket to mount our fan to. First step we're going to do is remove the two bolts that secure the plastic guard on top. They'll be replaced by the longer bolt provided in the hardware kit. We need to snap that bracket in place beyond the plastic. Then line our holes up and insert these bolts. That gives our proper location. Bolts in place and tighten up. Then we're going to drill and mount this bracket using some 3/8 self-tapping bolts. With the bracket square and true to the header, I'm going to take a 3/8 drill bit. We just want to mark a divot on all 6 holes. Then we're going to take a small pilot drill and drill the pilot hole into there. Next step in the process, this is very important that we use an 11/32 drill bit to drill these holes for our self-tapping screws. Once we've drilled our 11/32 holes, we're going to go ahead and we're going to mount the bracket up. Now we're ready to set the fan in place. With the fan supported by the lift hook and a crane, we're going to want to remove the primary drive shield. One 3/8 nut there, one up top, one here. With the second person running the crane, we want to position the fan into place. We're going to connect this top link into this top link bracket, install these 2 bolts in the top link assembly. With the bolts installed in the top link, we're going to guide this down over the shaft. Once you have the frame positioned over the shaft, we have the horseshoe-shaped nut plate which goes in behind the frame, and the 1/2 by 1 1/4 bolts with lock washer are used to secure the bearing in place. Once we have the bearing flanges in place, we snug up all 8 bolts. Then we can remove our lifting device. Once we have our bearing flanges secured to the frame, we're going to want to slide the frame one way or the other to make sure that our pulley is lined up in the center of the rails. Then we're going to go ahead, we're going to position our lock collar on the bearing. And we're going to set the lock collar in place, locking it in the direction of rotation, the same direction as the wheels are turning, and secure it by tightening the set screw. Once we have both bearings locked in place, we're going to check all the mounting hardware, make sure it's all tight, and then we're going to proceed on hooking up the belt. Next we're going to do is get the primary belt onto the secondary pulley. So we're going to undo the tension on both springs using a 5/8 socket. We're just going to roll our secondary belt off out of the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and just start that bolt just to hold that idler up out of harm's way. Once we have the idler springs removed and the secondary belt removed, we're going to undo these two bearings from the frame, be able to slide that shaft out, slip the belt over it, and reinstall it. Take note of the direction of the grease fittings. We're going to need to remove the primary idler by removing the two bushings here at the pivot point. Slide it over the belt. And back into position. Rotate our grease fitting to the bottom on that side, lock it in place with a bolt so we can reinstall the bearing. It's easiest to line up one bolt first and start it into the nut plate. And we're going to do the same on this side. Starting with one bolt in the corner, other bolt opposite. Check the alignment of our pulleys, and we can reinstall our primary idler. This idler has a offset design to it so that you know the heads of the bolts go towards the fan side. And we want to just snug these bolts up. We don't want to crush our bronze bushing. We can start our tensioners, install our secondary drive belts. We're going to run our spring tension up. We're going to adjust our springs. We got about 1/8 of an inch, or enough to slide 1/4 in between the springs. Once we have our springs run up in proper tension, we're going to want to lock this lock nut. We'll now go ahead, install our safety shield back in place, and continue with the rest of the manifold installation.